All right, welcome back to the Inner Sanctum podcast. It's a podcast where Andrew and I get to talk about some of the video, legitimate or not, or I guess now legitimized, that made an impact on our collecting lives. Andrew, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're taking a trip back to 1988, and we're getting on the Kiss jet, the Kiss Clipper, if you will, and we're going to land in Tokyo, Japan, April 22nd, 1988.
Yeah! All right, Tokyo! You wanted the best, and you got the best! The hottest band in the world!
This is the second show that we're covering non-makeup Kiss, but it's our first show that I think we're covering proper 80s Kiss. I know we talked about the Sydney, Australia show from 1980, but I think many fans don't consider the Unmasked tour as 80s Kiss. To me, 80s Kiss is always the non-makeup stuff. The speed is basically cocaine the whole time. It's Peter Criss on crack. So that's what I consider 80s. This is our first proper 80s Kiss show. And what's funny about this is I think this might have been my very first 80s Kiss bootleg. I can't remember if I got Animalized Live and Uncensored or this one first. But this was one of the very first non-makeup shows because as a product of the reunion era, I really only collected makeup stuff for a long time. And then I started collecting the second makeup era. And it wasn't until the farewell tour when Kiss started playing the 80s songs again that I actually went back and was like, oh, I guess I kind of missed a whole, period of time for Kiss. So I never really dove into 80s Kiss until the farewell tour. So shame on me.
Yeah, video-wise, I never had this, until, again, back in the States, and this was one that was legitimized by Kissology Volume 2, I believe. It was a bonus disc, and they got the wrong date on it.
Is it a bonus disc? Well, it's my Kissology Volume 2. Oh, you know what? I'm a terrible fan because the only Kissology 2 I got was the Ritz, because that was the only one that I didn't have. So I never got the Kissology bonus disc for that one. So it has the wrong date on it?
Well, hold on. Of course, now it comes time to actually show the wrong date on it. I can't find the damn thing.
That's so funny.
Because the only bonus disc I still
am
able to find right now is the Ritz. And you know what? I really can't remember. I thought they had detailed this as the 21st, so it's just a minor quibble, because to be perfectly honest, that sort of detail only annoys those with OCD. But
which I got. Okay, so let's say, so I'm on eBay right now. That's the Largo bonus disc. Which that has the wrong date too. Because wasn't the second night in Largo was 7/8, wasn't it?
I can't keep track of all that. I'd have to refer to
my reference book. Okay, so you're right. So I'm looking at the bonus disc. It does say 4/21/88 is what is listed on the bonus disc for Kissology Volume 2. That's so funny that they got the date wrong. It's funny that I never got that bonus disc ever. Now, here's the thing. So here's why I'm gonna give them a little bit, because they did play two nights there. They did play the 21st and the 22nd. This just happens to be from the 22nd, and it's always been from the 22nd. I don't know. We sort of touched on this a little bit when we did our Australia 1980 episode, where it's clear that was an amalgamation of more than one show. Whether the rumors of it that it was Brisbane inserts in there, or if it was just the two nights on Sydney, we don't know. But we know that was more than one night together. This one, I've never heard anything about this being more than one night. This was what happened on April 22nd.
Yeah, and going back to my old bootlegs of it, which were audio only, it always has sounded that it's strictly one performance. The only question I have ever had about this in terms of how complete it is, and obviously it's not complete on Kissology, is that Tears Are Falling was part of the set at the time, and there seems to be a gap in the show where that song should have been performed, and I've never been able to confirm one way or another whether that song was performed on the 22nd. Now, the audience recordings from, I believe, the 21st have it. which is one of the strange things. So it just feels like there is a separation gap in the video where that should be. Now, you were talking about your first taste of the 1980s Unmasked Kiss. Mine was, of course, the video for Animalize Alive. And I was never a fan of the speed of performance, the tempo during those sets, the metallic tinniness of them in terms of their sonics, in terms of the speed, and just how the dynamics of all the songs had changed. So when I got this into my collection audio wise, I was a very happy guy
Mhm.
because it was a performance that was much more true to the original tempo of Kiss rather than being a speed metal band or an amped up hard rock band. And they were more honest to kind of the feel of the original songs while letting the new musicians in the group, Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick, really shine.
What I think is interesting about this one, and I mean, maybe this was just me being younger and really not having a lot of the resources that we have now to kind of look back at things. But for some reason, when I first started looking into the non makeup stuff, I always thought that it was the Monsters of Rock concerts that happened in later on in '88 that they kind of started going back and started playing more um, makeup songs during the non-makeup years. But you can clearly see that this is April of '88, and they're finally starting to reach back, and they're finally starting to play other songs again that they maybe ignored for a while. I know Strutter was on some of the in some
The
of the
final
Asylum
two
shows.
dates of the U.S. of the original April tour, or whenever the U.S. tour
Yeah,
ended,
yeah.
those final two dates had Strutter come back into the set,
But
and that's really the moment that starts that transformation.
yeah, and then also it's there's other songs that like shout out loud and other songs that finally came back into the mix, calling Dr. Love and all that stuff that hadn't been there for a long time.
Yeah, no, what I like about this show and this period is number one, it shines a light into a neglected era of the band, the Crazy Nights tour. Obviously, the album had not done what it was hoped that it was going to do, but they still did a massive world tour in support of it, even if they got rid of Gary Corbett
Yeah,
in December. Getting rid of the keyboard, or the professional keyboard player, because there are still keyboards. Obviously, his programming is still present on this show, but just not executed quite as well as if it were he. But it really was a pretty grand tour, but one that just was kind of the wrong tour at the wrong time. Like White Lion started opening for them on the US tour, and they hadn't hit with Weight yet. They go out with Aerosmith, and they,
huge.
you know, huge. And Aerosmith was really not hitting at that point yet either. They started off strongly with Dude, but it seemed to be Kiss was one step ahead of everything in the wrong direction. Just a moment too soon, jump the gun. To coin the phrase of a demo from the period as well. So it was an exciting time. I was heading to Singapore around the time of this tour, and I'd become enough of a fan at that time to be aware of more of Kiss's history.
Mhm.
So I knew that they were going to Japan for the 10th anniversary of their last visit to the group, to that country. I was very excited about it. I was looking forward to something in particular, though, and that was in the magazines, Circus and Hit Parader at the time. You would always see in the back Japanese magazines for sale, and there was the Kiss Encyclopedia 1977 and the Kiss Encyclopedia 1978. I still have one of those here,
I got
and
them
I
both.
was
I got 'em
I was hoping that there was going to be a Kiss Encyclopedia 1988 from Music Life done on a similar scale to those for that tour in Japan. And it didn't turn out to be the case, but they did get a very cool tour book
They
out
got a
of it.
cool tour book, and that's another thing that I was going to mention. They got their own tour book. Japan got their own tour book in '77, then they got their own tour book in '78, and then again in '88. And you would think that the same trend would happen. I mean, I know we got a Japanese text in the '95 tour books, which is by far the worst Kiss tour books of all time. And then when the reunion tour came around in '97, it was just Japanese text of the existing reunion book. So, and I don't believe it wasn't until obviously there was the Japanese tour book in 2003, but I don't believe the Japanese got their own legitimate tour book separate from the US until like 2015 or 2013, something like that again. where it was completely different than whatever was being sold to the US market at the time. I think it was 2015. Somebody correct me. I'm pretty sure it was that, because I have it, because it's the same. They did one for Japan, and they did another one for Australia as well too, that were both completely different than they were for the US tours at the time. The point I'm trying to make here is that they did this big tour in 88 with this tour book, and then when they came back 95 and 97, this is the same shit that everybody else got. And it was shit in 95. The tour book was absolute shit. Anyway, getting off on a tangent there.
And it was 2015, the Rising Sun 40th
Was it?
anniversary tour.
I was
Yes,
right.
it was.
I was
That
right.
was a really that was actually a very cool tour book. I
I got
remember
them both.
getting that one specifically back when I was collecting tour books, so it was a very cool one.
I still got them. Well, I mean, I have all the tour books. I mean, that was always my thing. My thing was always tour books. Anyway, just getting back to, I guess, the proper show on this one. Then we'll talk about a little bit more of the history. What was this for? Because there's
It was for
titles.
It was for NHK for a Kiss special, I believe.
Yeah, but did it ever
Uh,
air? Because I never heard. It's clearly documented that they had the Japanese special air, the Young Music Show in 1977. It was clear they brought over to Western markets in 79 on HBO, but I never heard that anything was ever done with this.
You know, getting into Japanese media and the fanzines like LF, it's very difficult to follow what was going on in Japan in the Kiss community, and also in terms of the record label at the time. That's still kind of an empty era for me in terms of information. So I'd love to know the specifics, because, of course, Kiss's phonogram contract that they had, basically violated repeatedly, had that they were supposed to be touring in international markets every other year throughout the 1980s. So it may have been a contractual obligation forced on them, because they had missed tours in 86, in 85.
5.
Yeah. So they were for this cycle at least going to Europe again, as they were supposed to. They were going to Japan again, as was clearly warranted at that time. So I don't know. I've never seen any documentation or anything in terms of a newspaper saying NHK Kiss special airing,
Yeah,
because it's set up. It's got all the production stuff kind of done. It is filmed so incredibly well.
well, that's NHK
To
for you.
Yeah, but compare that to the Spectrum in Philly from December, and just the difference in quality of filming, and also the difference in quality of performance. You listen to the 21st show, the audience bootleg, you can clearly hear Paul doing nearly identical raps. So he's very much going for a continuity in performance. But then again, he would have been going for a continuity in slow and very understandable phrasing
Mhm.
for the non-English speaking audiences anyway. But it was very controlled. So yeah, great question. Who knows the answer? Who's got something that they can share with us to show us what it was actually for, and what is the purpose of this video other than two goofballs talking about it?
Two goofballs, but we're not even the first goofballs that have talked about this. I mean, there's probably been other people that have talked about this before.
Yep.
But I thought it was very strange that the first time that I saw it, because I remember too, I still consider myself a younger fan. By the time I became, a diehard fan, there was so much information available to me that I was kind of able to cherry pick and look back and see if I saw something and go, what does this mean? Or what's Chikara? What is, like, I was able to look back at the history and see, because it was documented at the time. When this was happening, there really wasn't that nobody had cataloged the news at that point. There wasn't a kissasylum.com in 1988 that I could just look back and see what was going on. But when I became a fan and I got this video, I was like, well, never read anything that there was a special or anything done, because I was confused when you had the there were professional titles and all that stuff. Same kind of stuff when I saw the Largo 79 video. There was credits and everything into that too, and I never knew what that was ever for. Probably never will. So who knows? Maybe that was a product of whatever the bootleg videos were at the time. I don't even know what they were called at the time. But just to touch on the Spectrum show, because the Spectrum show is included on Kissology 2 proper. It is edited, and that's the unfortunate part about the Kissology 2 set, the actual proper set, not the bonus discs, because obviously we know the bonuses for Volume 1 were edited. But the Kissology Volume 2 collection is we have this, and this continued on with Volume 3, where they were editing stuff and they were taking stuff out. And, we're looking at this set, and this set covers 78 to 91. It's a huge time period. And when we're looking at the Philly show, there's 5 songs from Philly. And just remember, that was that was shot by in-house cameras. NHK is a professional production company that was able to do what they did in the 88 show. So I'd be curious to find out how long the Spectrum had their in-house crew by the time Kiss played there in 87. Was this maybe like the first year or two and they hadn't really gotten their sea legs on there? Maybe there were other shows that were shot better. Long-standing rumors that there was a Spectrum 92 and a Spectrum 1990 that were also shot. Is it possible those could be better than the Spectrum 87? Anyway, the point I'm trying to drive home on this is both shows, the Spectrum 87 and then Japan 88, they're both available, very, very similar in set lists as far as what's played. But you can tell that the performances, the band seems tired in Philadelphia. The band doesn't seem tired here. They seem energized. And, look at the energy that they have when they're running around, especially during the opening number of this song. It's night and day. I know it's a 4-month difference. Back then, 4 months, that's a substantial time.
That's a lifetime. Yeah.
You could have recorded an album in 4 months. Now, we're lucky if we get an album every 4 years out of our favorite bands. But back then, 4 months was a lifetime because the information moves so much slower. So I'd be interested to know what happened between December 87 and, April 88, because, the US tour, it ends in Las Vegas on April 2nd, 1988. And then they have, I don't know, just a little under 10 days off. And they're playing in Nagoya. So I'd be interested to know what happened between there. Did the band just do nothing? Did they just rest? Did the band need a rest? Was the band just, I guess, licking their wounds because
they were licking their wounds? Think of what happens between the beginning of the year and the end of the year. Number one, they get rid of Gary Corbett because they're cutting costs and tightening their belts. The tour is doing dreadfully in the States. It's really up and down again. It's like Lick It Up all over again. The album's not doing well.
No,
it
not at
hasn't
all.
manifested itself into the hit. So, they're trying to give it a third go with Turn on the Night. They're firing Glickman Marks at the beginning of the year. I would think that a lot of that time off, and they left for Japan. They arrived on the 14th of April. So you only have from the 3rd to the 13th, a 10-day stretch. That's a very quick breather for any of the people. And Gene and Paul, I would think, had not gotten much of a breather whatsoever. You mentioned a key word, though. You mentioned Chikara, which was the limited edition.
I was just gonna talk about that too.
Yeah, because that was one of the great things about being a fan at the time. And it was something that offset some of the negativity I had towards Crazy Nights as an album. Coming off Asylum and then listening to Crazy Nights, for me as a new fan, there was a sonic cleanliness to it, probably akin to what fans felt in 1975, 76, when they went from listening to Alive and Dressed to Kill to listening to Destroyer. All of a sudden, you went from rock and roll to polished, constructed, deliberate, thoughtful music, which is clearly the difference between Asylum and Crazy Nights as well, though. That's as far as the comparison between.
Yeah, but have you ever, and this is a little bit off on a tangent because I do want to get back to Chikara, but have you ever listened to Crazy Nights from beginning to end on like a pair of really, really nice headphones, like really turned up loud?
Yes, because I wrote a freaking book about Crazy Nights, and it made me change my whole way of thinking
because it sounds
about the album. Because I was listening to it on headphones, basically while rewriting the narrative sections and finessing everything else that was going into that book. I hated Crazy Nights with a passion. It was a very painful moment for me that nearly meant that I was not a Kiss fan, because I was severely hurt when I first pressed play on that cassette tape, going down to Music City in Binghamton on my bicycle day of release to get it. It really hurt me deeply. And then I went to England, and there were all these 12-inch singles and picture discs and all this stuff that was really exciting. And I had the collector bug at that time.
Mhm.
So it kept bringing me back in, but I never got over the music until I was doing the book and I was listening to it on headphones continuously. I'm listening to Bruce's guitar work. I'm like, you know what? He's slaying.
Mhm.
He didn't start just doing that on Revenge. He didn't just find a pair of balls on Revenge. He was always that player. It's just buried in my negativity for that album. But, let's not get off
Let's not get off
off the
topic.
trail too much. Yeah.
Hi, Bruce. I was actually just texting with him today. But let's talk about Chikara, because I think you think that Chikara took the venom out of Crazy Nights for you. And again, remember, I'm a fan that became a fan and looked back at the history. This is a huge missed opportunity. It came out in May of 1988, like a month after the tour. Like, come on, like I think it may have sold better, or I think it may have fared better if it had come out in April or March of '88 prior to the tour. But again, it's so funny because we're so spoiled with how things are now. You go to the concert and you could buy the CD at the concert right now. That was unheard of in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. The record industry and the live concert industry were two separate things. You could never go to a concert and buy a CD. Furthermore, whatever you saw at the concert was probably different than what you could purchase on the band's website if they had a website at the time. So everything is the same now, but back then it was so different. I didn't notice a difference until 2006 when I went to see Kiss in Japan, and all the Japanese remasters, the mini LPs stacked to the ceiling were being sold at a concert. That was the first time I saw Kiss CDs being sold at a Kiss concert. Prior to that, you never ever saw that. So probably here too, in 1988, you probably weren't going to be seeing Chikara CDs, cassettes, or vinyl at the actual concert. However, you probably would have went to Tower Records the day after the show, and you probably would have bought that if you had enjoyed the concert. So it'd be interesting to know what happened, why that came out May 25th, 1988.
My bet would be it ties in with Glickman Marks.
Mhm.
And the end of that deal probably led to some delays and some business getting done. Now, it does come out in May. 100,000 copies.
Mm-hmm.
That's more than Unmasked sold in Japan.
Well, compilations, they tended to sell better than that.
Yeah, but that's a very good number. I know it's a collectible these days and it's been bootlegged. And it was one of those things that popped up again in magazines when I'm becoming a collector and a fan. It's that like key collector item for me. I mean, to this day, I've got a little notebook here that I do my notes while we're doing these shows. And on the cover of it
is Chikara. That's your Chikara.
Yeah.
That's not the Chikara.
No, that's my Chikara.
I know.
That's trademark. Can't get in trouble.
That will not be the tattoo that I get. The tattoo I'll get will be the Crazy Nights tour book back cover.
So just going back to the coolness of collecting at that time, was Chikara obviously was a representation of that Japanese tour. There was features in the press, in the music press about them returning to Japan for the first time in a decade. So it wrote me back in and probably saved me. This saved me as a Kiss fan.
But did your Chikara come with a patch?
I've had a few. They never did vinyl, which would be nice to see, and they never did
Right.
cassette, which would be nice to see as a cassette guy.
Right. Cassette guy's funny. Yeah, that's I don't know if mine has it. I purchased mine from somebody maybe 2 years ago, maybe. I'm not sure. I have to look. I'm in the middle because I've for many years I kept all of my physical media of Kiss packed away because that's the only band I keep physical media from. Everything else I either purchase the download, or when I buy the CD, I immediately bring it to the used store after I rip the CD because I don't stream. I hate streaming music. I hate streaming media. A platform is not going to tell me what I can watch. Anyway, I'm just getting to that point now where I'm going to display all of the Kiss media, and I know Chikara's in there. I just don't know if I have the patch or not. I'm not sure. I have to look.
One of the copies I got came with an Obi, and it turned out to be only half the Obi.
Oh,
it was missing, I think, the inner one part of the inner book.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got another one. It was actually the bootleg one with the black eye. And then I got another one. It was supposed to come with a patch. No, I've never had the patch. But then again, just as well, because I would have sewed it on my jean jacket back in the day.
Listen, if I got the patch today, I would put it on my jean jacket today. Here's the biggest misconception about being a collector. There are collectors that basically they get everything, they keep everything in the box. I want to enjoy whatever I got. And if I'm going to get a patch, I'm not going to put it in a box. I'm going to put it on something. So if I'm going to get a t-shirt, I'm going to wear it. If I get a jacket, I'm going to wear it. I mean, it was up until a couple of years ago that I was actually wearing my 1978 double platinum Casablanca jacket just because I liked it. So it is what it is. So
I had a really cool jean jacket back in the day. It had the Asylum blue patch up on the side. It was all Kiss patches except for one Public Image Limited, one on the
if you're
front.
going to say Public Enemy, I'd be like, come on, man.
No, Public Image, which is another one of my passions. But I would have had the Chikara up on the on the shoulder because it's such a cool
It's
emblem.
so cool. And when you turn over the back of that giant tour book, it's giant. It's all over Eric Carr's drums. I talked to his sister Loretta, and the story that she told me that she did all those like at their apartment.
She made them.
She made them all. Before they went out, because it's interesting to look at, because when you look at the Crazy Nights promotional video, there is no Chikara, and then it wasn't until they actually started filming videos on tour that the Chikaras appeared on his drums. So it's cool. So at some point I'll get a Chikara tattoo. At some point I will. I don't know, a lot of the people that do tattoos, they're like, man, circles are really hard, and I could see that. I could see that circles are probably really hard. So all right, so we have the tour book that came out around this time for this Japanese tour, and then we have the Chikara compilation. Is there any other media that was released around this tour? Because obviously you had the merchandise, which I don't even know if I know what any other the live concert merchandise was other than T-shirts. It's probably just that.
Yeah, around this time, no. I do have some of the the Polystar memos and whatnot, and I haven't even found all of the media that they did in Japan for this tour. They were doing interviews and stuff, outside of just the merch. It's weird. I would have thought out of Japan as well that do you remember the little pin they did with the Elder?
Yes,
That you would have ended up with a little pin with the Chikara.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been nice.
That would have been cool. That would have been really cool. Yeah, we're talking about the press that they did. They did an interview with that silly puppet. Yeah. And that interview was everywhere. Like, that was one of the first things that I had seen. I think that might have been the first time that I heard Bruce Kulick speak, was in that interview. Yeah, because I would have gotten that. I would have gotten that before I had picked up Extreme Close-Up or Confidential, because I think I didn't get those.
Or Exposed. Edit her out.
You know what? I always forget that's his only line in there. I always forget that that's in there. And I'm telling you, I think I got Exposed on DVD first. Not sure. You're trying to. I see you're trying to focus yourself. Yeah, it's that virtual. But you can see I've chosen the finest virtual background here. A dresser that I desperately have to get rid of. I hate that thing. So that might be the first time I ever heard him speak, and I always remember that interview that they did there, and I think that's it. Things that I've seen visually.
Yeah, the other ones are radio based, or for magazine, print magazine. I'm gonna throw up. Here you go. Here's one press sheet from the weekend around this this show.
So let's touch on the significance of the tour. This had been the first time that they had been back to Japan for 10 whole years, and I guess bands not touring internationally for 10 years now, probably not a big deal. But back then, again, a lifetime almost, and a lifetime in history if you think about it. The last time they were in Japan, it was still the 4 original members, and now the revolving doors of guitar players have stopped. They got a new drummer, and more importantly, no makeup. And let's just talk about the stage show for a little bit here. Virtually no stage show. Was it too expensive to ship over the giant Kiss logo that was made of basically par cans? I guess it was, because there is literally no stage show here. And the
IRS took all their money. What do you expect?
Well, just as speaking of that, just as an aside, I drove to the Cleveland Metro Parks Zoo yesterday, and there was a Glicks building, and I wonder if it was like, because Glickman Marks, they're from Cleveland, Ohio, so I'm wondering if that was something of them that I just seen. Anyway, that was just a disconnected thought that I had. So they're on this tour. They're basically doing, and they did this kind of all throughout the 80s, going back to Asylum, where their stage really wanted to be the 1984 Van Halen stage. They just really wanted the amps to look like that, and they really wanted that stage. And whatever they decided to do with that, whether it was on the Asylum tour or on the Crazy Nights tour, and then even I guess to a lesser degree on the Revenge tour, it just never looked as cool as it did with Van Halen. So I don't know what it was. They just never could get it together with that. So you got this band that's known for big show, big production, and what do they bring production wise here? They got some, dry ice machines that are firing out to the audience and 2 explosions. That's it. Everything else is just the music. So, and I understand the band was trying to put a focus on the music, but at the same time, I just remember my first thing after watching the show, I was like, man, 80s Kiss. It wasn't. It paled in comparison to 70s Kiss, and that's why when they put the makeup back on, everyone was like, "Oh my god, we can't wait! They're gonna blow everything up." So they just didn't do that in the 80s. They didn't. So
See, for me, my only reference point to this in terms of live performance was with Animalize Live Uncensored, early on, because as a collector, I did have audio from it in the 90s. So again, listening to it, I thought it was the high point in some ways of them in the 1980s musically, because they were battling for something.
mm-hmm.
And in terms of the performance, they don't have any real effects to rely on during this performance. They only have the music. They only have the 4 individual musicians up there. I just like to say, Gene Simmons looks absolutely ludicrous during this video. I can't decide whether this is a worse look for Gene than Animalize Live Uncensored or not. It's better than Asylum and the B. Arthur Experience, but it really was not a good look.
You don't like his shoulder pad tassels? You don't like that?
No.
It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. You could tell that he's trying to be menacing again, just failing completely. Just completely failing. And the little wigs that he was wearing at this period of time, I just thought they were silly. Very silly.
His clear discomfort visually is not enjoyable schadenfreude. It really is not nice to watch Gene trying to be Gene, so limited by his ability to be the only thing he knew how to be on stage effectively. And I think he did a better job during Lick It Up, to be perfectly honest. But
yeah, I'm gonna agree there. I felt like they had something to prove during Lick It Up, because they didn't want to just be the band with makeup. They wanted to be a metal band during Lick It Up. And I guess the success of Animalize and probably the success of Tears Were Falling probably led to maybe some laziness. And then of course, you're licking your wounds when Crazy Nights doesn't do what they wanted it to do. Because they really wanted to do Ozzy and Hart numbers on this record. That's why they got Nevison to produce the record. But yes, Gene looks ridiculous here, and I'm so glad that the fire marshals in Japan put the X-nay on, the egregious pyrotechnics, because then we would have gotten Gene doing his Ace impression, shooting the rockets. So I'm really glad that's gone, because I don't need to see that. I don't need to see Gene just going, I'm just gonna do that again. So I'm glad that's not there, but
they did a great job with the lighting in lieu of the fire and the pyro, as far as I'm concerned. It's still a visually appealing performance, other than how the 4 members of the group look. Talk about a disjointed, non-unified look. They look like the United Nations, which was what they weren't supposed to look like as Kiss. You've got Bruce, wearing a very stylish outfit. Bruce looks great,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not really heavy metal look. He looks stylish and flash. Gene, well, Gene's a hodgepodge. Um, Paul Stanley and his Back to the Future Velcro booties,
He looks
spandex,
he looks like
uh,
he got it from Olivia
bum bag.
Newton-John. He looks like he's the male Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah, he wants to get physical.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
bad.
and then Eric Carr in the back of what, he have a little halter top, or I mean, he
I
wasn't
think
exactly style king back then.
was it the Led Zeppelin shirt that he wore? Because he wore
Yeah,
the
I think
Zeppelin.
I think he had the Zepp One shirt.
He wore
It
that
seemed
quite
to
a bit.
be always had that, or Dolls. I think was the other one
But he just
you'd
wore
often
like a
see.
spandex bodysuit and a
It
t-shirt.
was a full spandex bodysuit. You see him squeezing into this damn thing. It was either black. He had a camo one as well. During the period, he just loved those things.
Listen, they're great to play in as a drummer. They really, really are.
Well, yeah, and he's the most cardio intensive
Mhm,
physical guy in the group,
mhm.
but none of them look like a group. You put all of them together, and you're like, wow, it's like that clashes.
The only time I thought they looked like a group around this time is they did a promotional shoot, and I don't know if it was going to be the album cover or anything like that, but there's a shoot where they're all wearing black leather together, and I think it actually ended up on one of the picture disc releases. I thought they looked cool there, where it was just it was back to black leather, and it was just they
Oh
looked like
yeah,
a
the Turn
band.
on the Night cover, I think it
Yeah,
was.
yes, I think it was that, but I think it might have also been the Crazy Nice picture disc on one of the sides. I think it's been a while since I looked at it.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
It's the flip side to the picture disc.
But I thought they looked good there. They looked like a band, similar to how they looked like a band during the Revenge. Um, but this is the tail end of the '80s and the tail end of the ridiculousness, because remember, Asylum was just ridiculous, and then this tour was just this tour they wanted to be something that they never achieved what they wanted to be on this tour. And you sort of wonder what the tour would have been like had they done Heart or Ozzy Osbourne numbers. Would we have gotten something similar to the Sphinx as far as production goes? I'm not saying we would have gotten the Sphinx or anything like that, but I'm just saying, would we have gotten a production heavy show if the album was a runaway success, or would they have played it safe? We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know.
We'll
And
never.
if the album had been a hit, would we have gotten a set as vibrant and really foundational to the rebuilding of going backwards, that Japan kind of represents, as the some of Europe
Hmm.
later this year.
Hmm. Hmm. So there's your history lesson for today, kids. Um, let's jump into the show and kind of go track by track as we've done. Any other thoughts on the show before we dig into songs?
Yeah, there's a few very cool bootlegs around this. Kamikaze Kissing at Budokan, I think it's a triple LP um, on it. One of my favorite singles was a live version of Crazy Nights from this show. I think the B side for that 7-inch single was well, I don't remember what's the B side now. And then there's Guns and Kisses on CD, and that's just on the audio side of things, because obviously video wise, until Kissology, until bootlegs and all that, came along later. It was just VHS tapes, I guess. I can't even remember what it was. Which version are we going to be discussing today?
Hold on, just before we get to that, because now you've rattled me a little bit. Am I the only collector that never really cared about the names of the shows, or let me get this version, let me get this colored vinyl version of this show? And I never cared about any of that stuff. I just wanted the show, make it the name, the date of the damn show. I don't care what you're going to call it. I never cared what you're going to call it. Don't name them, please don't, and just
Yeah,
give me
but
the.
those bootlegs had girly pictures on the front. They were really cool
I
for
don't care.
14 to 16-year
I don't
olds.
care. I don't care. At the time that I had gotten this, I could see as many boobs as I wanted in a minute on the internet. So by the time that I got in the show, I just wanted the show, and I just wanted the date of the show. I don't care about any of that.
I just wanted them on this.
Yeah,
I didn't care. I just wanted the music.
that was
So
already by the time I started seriously collecting, cassette tapes were gone. I had never purchased a Kiss cassette tape, a bootleg, ever. By the time I was collecting, it was all on CD. In fact, my first Kiss CD bootleg was Cleveland 76. That was my first one. And it was a silver CD. Someone actually, there was a reunion picture on the CD, which I was like, what, why'd they do this? But it was someone took some time to put together. Like, that was cool. And the name of this thing was Cleveland 76. I'm like, great, got it. Because imagine pre-internet, and I'm assuming that maybe there was some confusion about this at the time, but imagine you're getting, a show that's called, Kamikaze Kisses, but two people named the show Kamikaze Kisses, but or you're buying a show that says Kamikaze Kisses, that's Japan 88, but then you're seeing another person that says, Rising Sun 88, and you're thinking, I got to get that show, and then you get home, it's the same damn thing. Stop that. Just stop it. Stop this. Stop the madness. I'm not collecting. I'm not naming shows to collect them for the name of the show. Just put it the goddamn date, goddamn show. That's all I want.
I get the date right.
Yeah, get the date right.
Unlike Kissology.
Get the date right. You showed me a list yesterday, and someone's like, "Oh, San Diego '79, Peter's last show." I'm like, "It's not. It's not."
Yeah, but come on, that was from '82. That was a very cool list, nonetheless. I mean, they had Midnight Special '74. Who cares? I mean, you'll still see errors in people's listings today, just because it's ingrained in some way.
Stupidity. I give them a pass back then, but now there are so many resources. Just look at the resources. Kiss Concert History Online. It's the best resource. You could just type that in. Everything is there.
Oh, and since you mentioned that, there is now the Kindle version of that available, just out this week for anyone who wants an ebook version.
There you go. Well, it's the information. There's so much information out there now, and it's easy to get information, and just look it up. Just look it up. I won't go off in a tangent because I could talk for hours about that. Because people there, my biggest gripe is that people are posting pictures that are clearly from two different shows, and they're telling me it's from the same show. I'm like, it's not. I go, because I look at the costumes. I find one detail, and I got to match one detail in all the pictures, and that's how
Position of the mic on the bass drum.
No, not even that. God. I don't even go to that. I look at like costumes, or you look at staging pieces, or on the Dynasty Tour, you look at capes or anything like that. But anyway, back to Tokyo 88. We're talking about the version of this show, and there are many, many versions of this show that have come out. But a couple years ago, there was a Japanese website that was selling the highest quality versions of all of these shows. So we viewed this version of the show to do this episode of the show.
What was its title?
Fuck it, I don't know. I never cared. Just give me the fucking date. I can't stand it. The names I can't stand. Like when I got the Kiss carton, the CD collection of all the old, vinyl bootlegs, and some of the names of the show, I'm like, what? I would have gotten so angry if that was the only way I can get the shows. I've been so angry. Anyway, so I don't know what the name of it is. I don't pay attention to the name of it. The name is the date and the location. That's the name of the show. But I think we were very lucky with this show because it's always kind of circulated in exceptional quality. The version that had come out the last couple of years, it's taken it even a step further. But this is one of those shows that has always circulated in great quality. Let's take a look back at the very first show that we've reviewed on this program, the New York 1977. When that was circulating years ago, it always looked just out of focus, just below horrible quality. And now obviously we have the better version that came out from that same Japanese website. But this is one of those shows that any time that I've been collecting the show for the last 30 plus years, it's always been in great quality. And we're lucky to kind of have that as a souvenir of this tour.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's nice to see that dialed back as well, because obviously the versions have come out over the years on DVD as the format has changed. Fans with the best intention tweak. So it's nice to reset it back to, what is, pretty much unadulterated. I mean, it really is minimally affected, and it retains all those great qualities that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Even I know it was officially released at the time, but by the time I started collecting, I didn't have the official VHS of Animalized Live and Uncensored. It was someone had made a dub of that, and it might have been a dub of dub of a dub. So I had that, but it wasn't. This one was always in exceptional quality, and I think I got this at the old New York, New Jersey Kiss convention, April of 2000. I think that's when I got this because I wanted to hear more 80s Kiss songs before I had seen them, because I wasn't going to see them until June of 2000 on the farewell tour. So I bought this then, and just so I could hear some of the other songs. I just remember like when I was going through the set list going like Bang Bang You, no no no, the hell is what is this nonsense? I go, where's Deuce? So but I got this then, and again, I can't hit home enough that this is always circulated in exceptional quality, whereas other shows maybe didn't. So let's get into the meat and potatoes, of the show. Opening track, Love Gun. What say you, Mr. Gill?
I never liked Love Gun as an opener, nor with them just standing on stage with little more than fog and lights. But they rise to it and bring the power, and you still get some of those absentee Gary Corbett triggered keyboard chords at the end, where you can hear them trying to fill in some of the sound.
Mm-hmm. Those are Eric's pads that he's hitting on those. I don't mind
The
Love Gun.
trigger, they're triggers.
Yeah, I don't mind Love Gun as an opener. I thought it was okay on this tour. I thought it sounded phenomenal on the Revenge Club tour when they opened up with it. And then I really enjoyed it on the Rock the Nation tour as them running out as the song is starting. So I thought, that's kind of cool. This is the first deviation of the original Love Gun arrangement here. This is when they're elongating the triplets in the introduction. This is the first time that they've been doing that. And it was very funny. When I was in the tribute band scene, they would always be like, oh yeah, we're going to do the reunion tour version of Love Gun. And I was like, what's different on the reunion tour version? And they go, yeah, that's when they started doing it, the long version. I go, no, they did that back in Crazy Nights. And if you listen, so they did it on the Crazy Nights tour, and then they did it on the Hot in the Shade tour, and then every other tour since then. So this is when it first started, where they finally started, elongating the introduction of the song. So all you Kiss fans out there that say this is a reunion tour version, it's not. They started doing it in '87. Love Gun. So again, giant fog blowers throughout the introduction of the song, and that is what it is. There's no giant explosions as there were on the Rock the Nation tour. But it's okay. It's okay. My opinion. Following that is here's what's great about this. Cold Gin to me is always too late in the set. I'm always like, oh man, this song again. It's always too long. And I was like, oh. So this was the first time where actually, like, of the shows that we've reviewed, I was actually enjoying this song until they started doing that stupid little hop, skip, and jump dance. I'm like, oh, I was enjoying it, and then I see that. This completely silliness.
Yeah, the aerobicized choreography is very, very off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
I like the sound of the drums. But my notes here, just like Paul's outfit is ludicrous too. Drums are great. Guitars are thin and shrill. Vocally, Gene sounds great. There's a nice gruffness to his voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Paul's guitar change,
yep, and
where you can't even hear that he's not playing guitar. It like doesn't make any difference when he's not playing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really kind of fun. But the aerobics, no.
I was finally be like, you know what, this wasn't so bad. Then I saw that, I was like, what? Oh, it's so
The
bad.
hell is that?
What
Stop
am I watching?
that! It's silly.
What am I watching? So silly, so silly. And then third song in, we get a brand new track off the album, Crazy Crazy Nights, Bang Bang You. Paul is starting to speak some Japanese. I just never. I always thought that Bang Bang You was a not a good song. It's the easiest way that I could put it. I didn't think that, for me personally, if I was picking songs to play live off the Crazy Nights album, I always thought that Good Girl Gone Bad was better than Bang Bang You. So I thought it was cheesy. I I didn't get the tongue in cheek. I never liked Bang Bang You. It was one of those ones I was always going to skip. So when I'm putting this in, and this is the third song, and I was like, man, and I was glad this song never appeared on the Kiss set list after the Crazy Nights tour. I was really glad.
Yeah, I hated this song back in the day. I was just, my jaw was agape at something so stupid being included on an album or even being written. I was like, why? Why recycle lyrics like Love Gun when you've got Love Gun?
That's right.
It just was, it was such a poor carbon copy. But musically, live, it's much better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say palatable. I'm just going to say it's much better live than it is on the record. And that's as much positivity as
Yeah,
I can garner
for
for it.
this track.
Yeah.
Um, really glad to see Calling Dr. Love back in the set. I almost think that this song should have been on the Animalized tour, just because I don't know. It just seemed like it would fit on the Animalized tour. I know it came back seldomly on the Asylum tour, but this is one of those songs that I think this is a classic Gene song. So I was really glad to see it back here. I was really glad to hear this performance of it. Gene sounds great on here. Maybe the tassels and the leather vest and the bass with his face on it is a little too tongue in cheek, even for Gene. But I really like the song. I think it's a good performance. Eric plays his ass off on this song.
Yeah, Bruce wins my vote on this one. He plays a great solo, and I love the videography, focusing in on the instruments during the solo. I always like when they get that right, especially if it's a good solo that I've enjoyed. It's a classic, but there are certain elements to the sonic performance on this album, on this show, pardon me, that you then hear with the changes that are made to the songs on Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. And I draw parallels between how the band sound on Budokan
Mhm.
as to what we get later with some of the changes made.
Maybe there's just something magical about that building. I mean, just remember this was not a concert hall. This is not Madison Square. This was a gymnasium.
Gymnasium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big word. That they just ended up having concerts there. Next up is the 1980s Deuce. Fits like a glove. This was always one of those songs that I was like, this is Gene's gonna do a little number here. And it was always fits like a glove. You know, Gene speaking some Japanese on this song. Paul teasing with a little bit of heartbreaker on this one. Um, I know this song survived up until the Hot in the Shade tour, but this is one of those. This is Lick It Up is the last Kiss album, the last '80s Kiss album that I could listen to from beginning to end and not skip a single song. However, because this song was played to death live in the '80s and it's on literally every single '80s bootleg that I have of Kiss, I'm a little sick of it at this point. That being said, though, if Gene's solo band pulled this out, I think that would be cool to hear it again.
Yeah. No, I agree with that latter sentiment, but I never get tired of the song. It works really well visually and sonically. And you know what? It's Kiss. It's fun, dumb, rock and roll.
Speaking of fun, dumb rock and roll, that's how I would categorize the very next song, Crazy, Crazy Nights. I've always missed this song in the live set. I was glad it came back in 2010 on the European tour in 2010. I was glad it came back. I don't love the performance of that just because it was tuned down like a full step. But I love this song. I thought Peter Criss could have pulled this off on the farewell tour. Um, I would have loved to have heard the Revenge lineup do this song too. I know, judging by your face, I know you don't like the song. However, um, I love this song. I've always loved this song. The demo, Paul's original demo, which sounds a little
Oh,
bit
the
more,
demo's way better.
it sounds more anthemic than the actual album track. But I always love this song. I think it's an awesome song. It was one of the highlights in on the Hot in the Shade tour, and it's a highlight here. I love this song. This song should have been a huge hit. It really should have been.
Yeah, Paul Stanley's saying, okay, Ron, let's polish this one up and playing the demo. It should have been, no, that's perfect. Don't you dare ruin that. Everything that anyone's ever heard, and you can hear the demo now on YouTube,
Mhm.
about the demos being superior to what was eventually over polished, in my opinion, is absolutely true. I've been known to hate on this song, and I know I just had the face of curdled milk when you started talking about how much you enjoyed it, because I've been tortured with this song several times live, and it's not been tuned down a step, it's been tuned down to the basement. Um, and back in the day, again, this was just way too high. And I know it was a hit in England, and I know I'm English and I'm supposed to be,
Supposed to
you
love it.
know, yeah, no, screw that. I never did. But let me say the same thing that I said about Bang Bang You. Performed live by this lineup, without all of that additional production polish, it is much more palatable. I'm not going to say that it gets me excited, um, but it doesn't torture me. I enjoy the live version during this period, and it's much better. I don't think any other lineup could do it justice. It needs to have Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick on it. No disrespect to any of the other players who came after them. That is my lineup. This is my crowd. This was my music. This was my Kiss. Again, I became a fan with this lineup, and I will, as much as I love the originals and grew to know a lot about everything else, this is my lineup.
This is the hill you will die on. This is the hill you will die on this.
Not by choice, just by happenstance.
I don't know. I've always loved this song. Even it was one of the first ones that I heard, as going back to non-makeup stuff. I've always loved this song. I always have. So, next we
So
have
what do
my
you say
least
about the
favorite
next
song.
one?
Yes,
Yeah.
because here's the thing. They were writing the song, they were like, no, they can't go like that. They're writing a little bit more. No. Wait, keep it like that. I hate this song. I hate everything about this song. I hate the stupid introduction. I hate, as much kudos that I give Eric and Bruce, because I thought as a drummer and a lead guitar player, I thought they played off each other so well. I hate everything about this. He jumps on the drum riser and they're playing together, and he's doing little drum fills, and they're doing a little call and answer thing. I hated it. Hate everything about this song. It's so bad. It's so bad. I hate it so much. I hate it.
Okay. I think I have the most notes for this song of any that I've written down. And it may be a little bit like Gene Simmons trying to write a Motley Crue song like Red Hot. Um, but the intro to this terrible song is fantastic. And you only get the full effect of that from watching the video, not listening to any of the audio bootlegs from this era, when you get to see Bruce in the spotlight as he puts on a really classy, heavy metal guitarist show, and then has a jam with Eric into the bombastic drums into the intro. It's freaking cool. It's not a terrible song. It again is much better live than it is on record, because it allows Bruce and Eric to jam out with Gene and Paul essentially off the stage to a certain extent. It gives the focus and the spotlight to the two non-original members of the group. And that, to me, to this day, when I was, doing that book and playing Budokan as well, during it, I would always
What book
stop.
is that? What book is that?
That was the Crazy Nights book years
What,
ago
what was
now.
that called?
Danger Zone.
Danger Zone.
Yeah, I had
Not
to think for
available.
a
Can't
second.
get it now. Not available right now.
Still on Amazon.
Okay, so Amazon.com, Danger Zone. Somebody signed mine. I don't know. It came autographed. I was like, who wrote in this? So
It was scribbled in it. What was it? Hot pink as well,
I don't know, but I know you.
or was it hot blue thong color?
Oh man, I don't know. I think it was actually black. I gotta
What
look.
a great jam song though this is live. I just think it's super fun. Even though it's certainly not the greatest song in the world, live it becomes more of a performance piece.
Mm. Mm.
I'm dying on a lot of hills today, Andrew.
Yeah. Okay, so but let's the last thing I'll say about this song is did you watch MTV's Most Wanted in '94 when Gene and Paul were on? They did that
No, I
version of
never
Going
watched.
Blind.
No,
Okay,
I
Paul
have
says
that on bootleg.
Paul says that this song is the worst song in Kiss's recorded history up until that point. if you interview Paul Stanley now, he would say there would be a two-way tie between "Nothing Can Keep Me From You," "Let's Put the X in Sex," and "I Finally Found My Way to You." That's a three-way tie of the worst Kiss songs ever recorded. But in 1994, "No No No" was the worst Kiss song ever recorded.
Mm.
So here we go on to "Reason to Live." I like this song. I've always loved this song. I remember seeing the video of it back in the day. A little bit more Japanese talking from Paul on this one. I did appreciate seeing another live version of this from the Spectrum, which is on Kissology Volume 2, as we mentioned. I think it's cool to see Bruce playing the keyboard part on this. I thought this song should have been a hit too. This is just another great performance of it, and it was, you had to have the '80s power ballad. You had to, and this is theirs.
Yeah, this is Paul's Loverboy power ballad type thing. Really good song, extremely good. Love his little riff in Japanese at the beginning. Oh, look at the beautiful girl. I can't say it properly, so I won't. But and he remembers to introduce Bruce on keyboards during this show. The night before he hadn't.
Mhm.
But it's a big, classy ballad, and all the legacy groups are trying to do shit like this at the time. Aerosmith had Angel, and I'll take Reason to Live over Angel any day of the week.
Mm-hmm. Angel's a pretty good song. I haven't heard that in a
It's
while.
still a great song, but I'll take Reason to Live, and it had a very good video.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. I don't know. Is "Reason to Live," is that the song where the car explodes?
Yeah.
Okay, you could, if you pause this, you could clearly see that the car that explodes is a Matchbox. It's like, once you see it, you will never be able to unsee it ever again. It's a Matchbox. It's not a real
Welcome
car.
to filmmaking.
Yeah, it's so obvious. Like, because when I saw it once, I was like, wait a minute, is that what I saw? So then I brought it into my editor and I watched it frame by frame. I go, it is a Matchbox. Super clear as day. Super clear as day.
But it worked very well live, didn't it?
It did
Not
work.
all
It did
big
work well.
power ballads like that do work well, but I'll say this for Kiss in the 80s. I Still Love You worked great live, even if it did go on a little bit long at times. But,
Yeah, why isn't that? Why isn't
Paul's
that song?
ballads did very well live
Yeah, why isn't "I Still Love You" here? That's a great song. That
because you got
didn't.
Reason to Live.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I didn't want to oversaturate it, but then you have, man. Even when we get down to "Revenge," "I Still Love You" was gone in favor of "Forever." I guess they were doing one ballad. Uh,
I think they stayed pretty focused in their set list. They did what they had to and kept things in the set that needed to be there for the current album, because you are still trying to recreate yourself and gain success for what you are at that stage without relying too much on the past. It's like, why wouldn't they bring Beth back, in the 80s? Well, apart from the fact that it was sacrosanct. It was, they weren't pushing that anymore. They needed to rely on what was current, what was new, and I Still Love You had its chances, was never a single, and that album was a flop, even after
yeah,
two releases.
yeah, yeah. At least two releases.
Yeah.
So next up is the '80s hit "Heaven's on Fire." Seems always like a weird place in the set. I either want this song to be third, or I want it to be like in the encores, in middle in the set. I thought it was weird. No Flames during this. I guess I was spoiled seeing on the farewell tour. No flame with the Flames. It's a good performance on there. I prefer this performance over the Animalized Live and Uncensored
Oh,
performance.
yeah.
That seemed like it was just going, too fast. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say about this song. I mean, this was just one of the ones that just it stuck around a long time, and it was a good song. It's a good song. I still enjoy this song.
Yeah, you pretty much cover everything I got to say, other than Paul Stanley was fantastic in the 1980s
It
as a
was.
front man. Just his command in presenting this song, he just has command. He's a powerful and attractive gentleman in the
Thanks.
gymnasium this night.
In tonight's this is actually a gymnasium. So not connected to a song, we have Eric Carr's drum solo. These solos, they always, I mean, I said in the last video, they always kind of went on a little longer than I wanted them to. Eric only singing one song here, Black Diamond, later in the set. I get why they were giving him his spotlight. Also gives Gene and Paul and Bruce the time to just kind of relax. During the set, there's an explosion at the end of it. I was never a big drum solo guy. Not that this is bad or anything like that. I mean, I saw clips of this before I saw the full show. I mean, there's clips of this all over Tail of the Fox, produced by Jack Sawyers and Loretta Carr in the early 2000s. Also weird that's not connected to a song. It's just Eric Carr on the drums and he just starts hammering away on this. So yeah, I could take these or leave these, to be honest.
I disagree because I really love Eric solos in the 1980s, and I would love a proper high res of every single tour solo, and I could happily watch that because I find them very dynamic and appealing. But this one's also filmed extremely well, and again,
Yeah.
it comes back to the whole package while viewing it and focusing on it. And the sonics sound great, but War Machine itself does not sound good to me in this sonic format of the Crazy Nights tour. There are certain sonic elements that permeate across all the songs because of the mix and the instrumentation. And War Machine just sounds a bit neutered.
Well, yeah, because you're used to hearing those bombastic drums on the Crazy Nights tour, and then listening to it on the Crazy Nights album, and then
Everything's
much later,
tighter here.
much later on, you're listening to it on the Revenge tour with Eric playing there. So yeah, War Machine does sound a little bit neutered. I will give you that. It's a little faster than I wanted it to be. But there's still the last remnants of them playing fast here on this one. And then after this is where Tears Are Falling should be.
This is where the gap was. This is where, to me, it feels like there is a gap where Tears Are Falling should be. And it was performed at the first show the night before. So why is it not here? Why does it feel to me that there's a gap? Is it that I just am overcompensating and I really want the song that made me a Kiss fan to be in the set here? Probably.
We got Gene solo. Just we never needed a Gene Simmons solo without the blood. We never did.
Eric wrote that riff, right? That he plays on the bass.
Bum 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 bum. It sounded better, it just sounded better on Animalized Live and Uncensored than it did here. I got nothing to say. And then you get my least favorite song.
Well, I've got something to say about I Love It Loud. All right. Yeah. By this point in the set, Gene is hot and sweaty because he's been working hard. But he looks even more ridiculous. He looks like the ragdoll from like the ragdoll version of Dick Van Dyke in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
That's good.
This stage.
You also got to mention that his voice cracks and he sounds like Grover from his
Sesame Street.
Yeah, because he's trying to be the demon, but the voice cracks, and you're just like, oh, that's this is one of those songs that listening to the original studio version and then watching that the music video, the first music video that Kiss ever did, the song just never translated live. You need even the live single from Alive 3, which is recorded in Detroit, and then for Alive 3. Even then, something about it, it's missing whatever the original studio version had. And I never thought they captured that again. So, and now every time they played it live, I'm like, man, just put that song forth and just get it over with. I know people like singing I get it, but put it early, get it over with. Get that song out of here.
Fair enough.
What do you have to say about
Aren't you glad we didn't skip it?
Love It Loud?
Yeah.
I wish
you were ready to move on to Lick It Up. So
I wish we would have.
So Lick It Up. Positivity here for Bruce on this one. He slays it, and it transforms it to be well balanced between what it was as a Vinny composition and what it became. So later on, it becomes some long-winded, really tedious, Who infused. It attempts to become what 100,000 Years was in 1975 with far less success. But here it's really great.
Up and 100,000 Years back to back, and they're both just
Well,
Oh,
they were too close together in the set, obviously, too often later on, and it just became the long pee break, beer break, and walk around the venue break, because it just went on way too long. But this song is comfort zone for me, and watching Eric and the nice flourishes of choreography that are going on during the performance are really good.
was this the first time they started off a cappella? You know, don't want to wait till you know me, but it's the first time they did it. Was on this tour, or did they do it that way on the Asylum tour? I can't
I don't
remember
know, don't
because
remember.
there's no sound. I mean, there's one soundboard from the Asylum tour, and I very rarely listen to it. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that, but this is the first time that I remember them doing "Don't Want to Wait Till You Know Me Better" because I know they didn't do it that way live on the Lick It Up tour. Um, but I always kind of liked the acapella version of that. It was this fine version of this. I thought it was fine, and I didn't really dislike this. I wasn't waiting for them to be over it like I was during "I Love It Louder." No, no, no. I actually
Mm.
I still enjoyed hearing the song live. I still enjoyed hearing the song live. So the next thing is that Paul asking the crowd if they want Eric Carter to sing a song. Were they going to say no? Like, of course they're going to say yes. So Black Diamond is up next.
Visually, this is the best song from the show. The camera work around Eric's drum roll
Mm-hmm.
is just so beautifully in sync with what's going on. The three soloists, the mix in of the wide angles, it's just visually very appealing. And it's so great to have, obviously his vocal, um, because his voice had changed. It really, he'd become a much better singer by this stage.
He definitely sunk into his own at this point because I thought his vocals were very Cookie Monster esque on the Unmasked tour. Which is funny to think that they did the song in the Unmasked tour, then Lick It Up, then they didn't do it on the Animalized tour, and I was glad to see it back here. Always one of my favorite songs to hear Eric sing. I thought this was um, a great version of the song. Great representation.
Yeah, I
Live.
wouldn't have known it at the time, but you said something about 1980 and his voice. He and now I know with having listened to a lot of his stuff from the clubs
Mhm.
in 1980, he's singing like he's in a club band. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, I can see that.
shouting like that. Now he's much more um, established as a professional
Mhm.
rather than a club player. I'm not saying that club players aren't professional, but he's road tested at that level, and is much more secure in himself than belting out the Who or
No.
the Knack or the Car or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he had been in the band 8 years at this point,
Hmm.
which was an eternity back then, an eternity. Now, not a huge deal, but back then, 8 years was an eternity. Following this, I Was Made for Loving You. So good to finally hear this song back in the set. Um, I like the song. I like the song a lot. And just going back to MTV's Most Wanted, Gene picked this as his worst Kiss song ever recorded, and even still to this day, Gene hates the song.
He,
I
he
like the
still
song.
he still shits on it. So
I like the song, and it's not as cool or as punchy as maybe they did on the Revenge tour, but I thought it was great that they were playing it again here. Because remember that Japan didn't get this song, or they didn't get this tour at all when the song was big in '79. Imagine what it would have been like to see this in Japan in '79. Would have been cool. So they're coming back to Japan, and they're playing this song. So I always really enjoyed this song live. And I think this was a great performance, and just kind of look back at what they did on the Spectrum concert, and this one wasn't included. So the fact that they're actually including this song now, I thought was cool. That was really cool.
yeah, they're making up in this set for the missed years with the Japanese audience. They're getting a very good, collection of Kiss hits, both from the classic era right up to the then current day. I'm indifferent to "I Was Made for Loving You" live. I mean, it's nice to see this lineup play it, but again, fast forward 37 years, I just never need to hear or see this song again, and that's more on what they did to it in recent years than anything to do with the performance on Budokan 1988.
Yeah, but imagine how cool it was back then. It was so
Oh
cool.
no, it was very cool, and obviously I did get to experience that with searching out bootlegs,
Mhm.
and even going back to the early days of my audio collecting, it was still a very cool thing to hear, especially when you compare it to all I'd heard to that point was the album version. So
Mhm.
I hadn't heard Dynasty bootlegs, and so it was all very new.
I'm gonna kind of group these next two songs together, "Shout Out Loud" and "Strutter," because finally they're paying respect to the original Kiss, and they're paying respects to vintage Kiss. And I thought "Shout Out Loud" and even "Strutter" should have stayed throughout the entire time. And it was such a crime that "Strutter" was not included in the set in December 2023 when we saw Kiss for the last time. But
Shameful.
but um but it's great to hear these songs back to back, and it's great to hear them back in the set list again. I know Strutter and stuff and Shout Loud was done on the Creatures of the Night tour, but this was one of those. These are two songs that were absent on those '80s tours that shouldn't have been absent.
No, no,
Because here's the thing,
Strutter is one of
I don't want to hear noodling like Eddie Van Halen on No No No. I want to hear da na da da na da da na da. That's what I want to hear. When I think of Kiss, that's what I think about.
Yeah, Strutter is one of the holy trinity of Kiss songs and should not have been excluded from the final show. Shame on them. I will never get over the hurt. Shout it out loud. I have a problem with this.
Okay,
There are sync issues or Gene's using backing vocal tape
I didn't notice that.
during this song. Um, there was a definite disconnect between his background vocals coming through and him not being on mic.
Could it have been
So,
Eric singing it? Because
no,
you don't think
no,
so?
no. I really and I would say go back and check,
I gotta
fact check
rewatch
me,
that.
please.
I gotta rewatch it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that goes to everyone out there as well. But I like the touch of pyro at the end of this because that's all you get.
that's all you get.
So pyro, yay! Strutter. And it's not surprising that they put this into the set in 1988. It's just a really smart song to go back to. It had been in the set in the Creatures tour. It was a regular. Then I can't remember after that. But Paul appears as invested in the song's performance here as he would have been in the clubs in 1973. And it was really nice to see. Now knowing what we know about the challenges that the band are going through, that it's a failure commercially, it's just fired its business managers. It's, they're basically managing themselves. But here he is singing like he's in a club, and just doing the business on a Kiss classic is a great thing to see.
Yeah, I love this song. I this is one of those ones that should have always been in there. Um, I thought it was so cool in Australia in 1980 how it went from, Cold Gin right into Strutter, and I thought, man, if they would have done that here, I thought that would have been so cool. Like Love Gun, Cold Gin, Strutter, thought that would have been so much cooler. Um, Following Strutter though, we have the oddest version of Rock and Roll All Night as far as the audience participation parts go. I've never, I never, I mean, I understand that you're working on a language barrier here. I just don't, I just thought the sing along parts were silly. I was like, okay, I get that, English is not their first language here, but I didn't take it. I didn't take it. And again, remember, I'm
Well,
watching a video I'm watching a video almost 40 years after the time that it happened. Almost 30.
yeah, it's rock and roll all night and party every day. You're a Kiss fan. You don't have to speak English to do a sing along. Um, but again, I didn't have anything to say about this. I'm like, okay, yeah, because it's just like I'm just so over the song. It didn't do
Same,
anything for me.
same.
So I can't give it fair judgment with 2024 eyes as I would have been able to a few years ago.
We never can give this song fair judgment. And then we close the show with Detroit Rock City. I think it's an odd closer. I know they closed with it in 2009, and even in 2008 when they were doing the Alive 35 tour. I just think it's an odd closer. I do think the little extended part in the middle of the solo, the da na na na, I think that was actually pretty cool to do. I actually really enjoy that. Typically, when someone's changing arrangements or they're changing how the song is played live, I'm like, I want to hear it how it is on the album because the album is ingrained in my memory. But I thought that was cool. They hadn't done this. They've never done this again. So you wonder if it was something that was for the Japanese tour only. Paul's running around and all this stuff, and Bruce is just teasing that solo part. I thought that was really cool. When they did that, I thought it was cool. And kudos to the editor on this one, to putting in clips of Budokan 77. So cool. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, no, great artistic touch, but what a great ending.
Mhm.
Paul showing reference to his heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Daltrey,
Roger Belcher, yeah.
Robert Plant. He's really full on, full command. Paul, again, I've said that he's powerful, and he a great front man in this. Eric looking so small behind his kit. Bruce is majestic,
Mm-hmm.
and Gene drowned in his sweat, just looks like a drowned wet dog
With tassels.
with tassels.
With
But
tassels.
boy, did they give it all for that performance. What a great show. What a great set list when you think
Yep.
of it in total. Just compared to a lot of the Crazy Night
Yeah,
shows
just
are
compare it to
very
the
short.
USA Crazy Night shows.
Yeah. I mean, it's the king. And when I was conceptualizing a 5-disc Crazy Nights box set, deluxe edition, this is the full release. I would have this as a video, as a standalone, or as an off the soundboard any day of the week with, mastering. It is just a spectacular performance. It just needs Tears Are Falling. That's its
It
only
does
weakness.
need Tears for Falling. It really does. Tears for Falling was one of the standout tracks in Japan '95, which maybe will be a show that we talk about on a future episode. But any final thoughts about Tokyo '88?
It's, to me, the Crazy Nights defining video. It is something that I still regularly watch and listen to for pure enjoyment of the period, because it can take me back to a time where I was finding my feet as a Kiss fan and I wasn't particularly happy with the studio album that they'd released. And I can enjoy some of the songs from it. And I get all those nice Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick moments, which have been forgotten, have been ignored, and to
Point.
some extent are being erased by the group, or by the
Good point.
current band owners, as they only focus on the characters of the original era and not even the people who created those characters. So it makes me very happy as a fan, as a person who became a fan in the 1980s. It's a high point.
It's a good point. It's an excellent point. This, to me, this has always been, I guess, we're not talking about 1990, but I think excluding the Hot in the Shade tour, this is my favorite 80s Kiss performance, and it will always be. To me, this bests Animalized Live and Uncensored because there are more songs in here that I like. I like to hear, I mean, I always pick Crazy Nights over Thrills in the Night. Not to say Thrills in the Night's a bad song. This is much more my favorite. I give them a break because visually this wasn't as exciting as some of the other shows. There's no giant Kiss logo in the background like we've become used to at this point in time. But I think this is a great show, and this was a landmark show because Kiss was finally going overseas again, and they were having success in other countries versus just the United States. So this is a good one. This is one that you need to take a look at, and ignore the version on Kissology Volume 2, that bonus disc. You don't need to see that crap. It's edited down to 30 minutes. Go find the full show. It's readily available in a lot of places. And yeah, so that's my story. I'm sticking to it. This was the Inner Sanctum, April 22nd, 1988. And if Julian has nothing to add, we'll see you the next time you press play.
Yep. Share your opinions on what you think of this show wherever you consume this podcast. Thanks for joining us.